Hi, welcome to Women's Empowerment International and our partner presentation with Adelante Foundation today. This morning or this afternoon, we are joined by Tony Stone, the founder of Adelante. He was born and raised in Honduras, came to the States, and is back in Honduras now. He is an engineer by trade, but I would say a nonprofit founder, philanthropist, and advocate by purpose and passion. So Tony, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about yourself, and later on in the presentation, we'll also be joined by Jodi Fischer, the development director for Adelante.
Thank you, Sarah. It's wonderful to be here with we again. We love the long standing partnership that we've had with you. It's been fantastic the whole way through. I'm presenting for Jodi, who got caught up with travel, but will be hopefully joining us soon. I'm not she is, but I'll do the best I can. So we've been, Adelante has been working with, empowering women and working in microfinance for actually 23 years now as of September 14th. And we're very happy that we've been working with we for so long. It's been a very interesting experience. Surviving the pandemic has, in a sense, made us stronger in that we've managed to implement so many new protocols to be able to work efficiently remotely during the pandemic, and now even more efficiently that we're able to see our borrowers again face to face, which is really what we prefer to do. I think many of you are familiar with Adelante, but for those that are new or need a little refresher, I'm pleased to share that Adelante is committed to empowering and enterprising women with the least opportunity to achieve economic self-sufficiency. We evolved as a Grameen Bank replicator and learned from the Grameen Bank early on, and tailored our program to work in Latin America and specifically in Honduras. And we've been evolving and modifying in order to ensure that women and their families are able to work themselves into a better standard of living. Microfinance is a hand up versus a handout. It is microloans for vulnerable enterprising women who want to start or grow businesses, and the financial literacy and training that they need to be able to be set up for success. So we do microfinance plus education. Over the past year, over 157,000 women and family members. We've seen an average repayment rate of 97%. Typical loans range from $50 to $1,500. In some instances, larger as repeat borrowers grow their businesses. Honduras, country in Latin America, second only to Haiti. 70% of Hondurans live below the poverty line. And of course, women are the most vulnerable of the population in that poverty demographic.
Tony, I don't want to interrupt, but are your slides advancing? I'm not seeing them change.
Oh, really? Huh.
I think we might be stuck on the first slide.
I'm on. Oh, you are?
Yes.
Huh. Let me try and share. You see the slide that says what we do?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. So what we do is we provide microfinance plus education, specifically business development education, financial literacy training, to improve the probability that women and their businesses will be successful. Over the past 20 years, we've reached 57,000 women and their family members and have managed to see an average repayment rate of 97%. Our average first loan size is between $50 and $1,500. And as borrowers' businesses grow, the loan sizes increase commensurate with the size of their businesses. Honduras is the second poorest country. Over 70% of Hondurans are the most vulnerable of that population and are challenged by daily food insecurity and health problems. So in 2020, we had 2 hurricanes that hit Honduras, compounded by the COVID-19 economic shutdown, really created an enormous challenge for everybody in the country, and particularly the very poor. And our borrowers were no exception to that. We took great pains to restructure loans, to help them out as best we could. Many of our borrowers' businesses were flooded during a hurricane and basically needed new capital to be able to start all over again. And so there was a lot of that happened in the region. Photos, his activities. Here's a site visit to one of our borrowers. You can see the condition of the visit and sanitation. And so the first thing is help us fund a borrower bathroom in attached to the home and then home improvement loans provide for better flooring and roofing and essentially better living conditions for our borrowers. Life conditions for these women improve with the introduction of microfinance. The income, of course, increases. There's increased resiliency, better gender equality, higher proportion of income is used for education in the home, improved food security, of course, higher crop yields, and we also sometimes focus on lower carbon pathways in terms of some of our educational modules with borrowers. Thanks in Adelante has been able to measure the impact, including seeing an improvement in our empowerment. And we've been able to, through survey methods, determine that 94% of women now contribute to decision making. So thank you, that's a very important metric.
And I think we might be stuck on the slide
studies
again. And so I just want to repeat that last statistic that you said. Oh, there it is, that 94% of women now contribute to household decision making, which, like you said, is very important.
I'm wondering if, because we didn't have trouble hearing Tony before we started doing the slides, and now you're freezing a lot. I'm just wondering if you can, maybe it'd be better for him to do the presentation without video, because I think the video is taking up too much of the space, cyberspace, whatever. What do you guys think?
Good, Sarah, would you like to share from your end, possibly?
I certainly can. Let me try that.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Tony, I think you were complimenting the WISE program just a minute ago. We didn't really hear the beginning of what you said, but it sounded like you were crediting Judith and her program for some of the information you now have about your clients.
Yes, I was going to comment on that. That was definitely a WISE statistic. And I take the opportunity on behalf of my WISE co-director, Louisa, to thank Adelante and particularly Jodi's participation in getting us on board as things progress. So gather that particular statistic is rather remarkable.
Absolutely. We're very happy to be able to have that information. It's very powerful for us. We feel that it's an important metric insofar as impact is concerned. Just a second. There we go. So thanks in large part to the substantive and regular support of We Adelante has been able to measure this impact, as I mentioned before. And if we go on to the next slide. I know I don't have to tell you, studies support that women are more likely than their male counterparts to invest profits and ensure the well-being of their families, education levels, and improve health conditions. Microfinance has a gender-specific target. Go to the next slide with our team members on it. Currently, Adelante has 50 staff. Can you see that? 50 staff that operate throughout some of the poorest regions of Honduras. Thanks to the recent support of We, Adelante has begun to take steps to expand services into adjacent low-income communities. Juticalpa, Sistema Olancho, Cofradia, which is in Cortez, and Rotan here in the Bay Islands. Go to the next slide. In Rotan, we pledged $50,000 loan pool, which we're getting from Rotary Foundation to advance this project, and have lined up a number of partners to secure free training space and actively are looking for a pro bono office. The other locations are a little slower moving than anticipated because it's been difficult to find appropriate personnel. Adelante believes it's better to be slow to hire and make sure that the hires are the right fit. Turnover is very common in Honduras, and much of the success of a loan portfolio is due to having the right credit officers, of course. The next slide. The recently awarded We grant from this summer has already mobilized $5,000 towards the virtual education platform, successfully piloted with employees of staff for staff training, actively converting training material to online education modules. This has been very powerful for us as we bring in new staff and onboard them. This really assists us in onboarding and in training them into the fundamentals of what it takes to be a field staff member at Adelante. Next slide. Due to COVID-19 and two back-to-back hurricanes in late 2020, Adelante's loan portfolio has taken a hit, impacting our ability to serve the same volume of deserving women. With $25,000 from We in this recent grant cycle, we have already served 75 additional women that we otherwise would not have been able to reach, and anticipate 50 more to go before the end of this year. And we're hoping to maintain that 97% anticipated repayment rate. We also ultimately hope to reach hundreds more and then thousands with funds that get recycled back into the loan program. So thank you very much, We. Next slide. Adelante offers a range of products, the majority of which go to working capital to start and grow businesses. Support from We had gone especially into individual and group loans. And you can see here our loan products are divided into individual, group, agriculture, education, sanitation, those are the sanitation loans, and home improvement loans. Next slide. This is a snapshot from 2021 that shows that the loan pool size is a fraction of actual disbursements. This is important because it shows that there's a rotation of the loan pool amount. And since our loans are on about approximately 6 months, we have a lot of rotation that happens in order to which encourages more business growth and more rapid business growth. So our money gets used over and over again, and that is a powerful tool for change. Next slide. We always want to make sure that people know that there are many ways to get involved with our work. In addition to grants and donations, we like to invite people who have an interest in learning more about microfinance to Honduras to see our work in action. So we have a gift-giving guide. Come visit Honduras, and you can also become an ambassador of Adelante's. Thank you so much for your time. I will open this up to questions and answers. If that's all right with you?
And there's Jodi.
Hi, so sorry I'm
Hello.
late.
No, thank you for making the trek to where you needed to be and for joining us.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Lee, for your ongoing support. But Tony and I are both available for any questions that you guys might have.
Tony, I'm interested in some of the longstanding issues that existed before 2020 and how how they are going these days. That being the competition that you face with other lending organizations in Honduras, the agricultural loans, the difference between individual loans and group loans, and how that's going, some of the long-standing issues that we've talked about.
Yeah, we if you recall, I came back as an interim executive director in 2019 to answer some of these challenges that we had. And we had been using a solidarity group lending model since the early days with Grameen. And while it worked really well for us for so many years, the market started to shift, and borrowers became far more loan savvy. There's far more players in the market, and more competition and loans available to them. So the borrowers started to demand more flexible, more individual style loans. They still wanted an educational component, but they wanted it to be just more modern and more tailored to their schedules. So a lot more practical. And that's basically what we did. We created a strategic plan based on qualitative and quantitative survey methods that we did to determine what our borrowers wanted and what the market was doing, essentially. And this is what created and formed our strategic plan, which had us evolve into Fusion that basically graduates borrowers from a group model to an individual model, but still maintains them in close proximity to what Adelante is doing. A lot of our effort went into strengthening our software, which we built in-house called SEAC. And it allows us, it's quite incredible what the software team was able to do. And it allows us to basically have real-time information of our loan pool and also real-time information of what our borrowers and field staff are doing. We have an automated schedule, a smart calendar that basically updates real time. So if there's a phone call that comes into one of the branch offices and a credit officer is on the run in the middle of somewhere, but he or she may be able to divert and do a visit to a new borrower, or a borrower is having a problem, they will know that instantly and the calendar will adjust. And so there's a lot of interesting challenges still ahead, but there's a lot of opportunity for us because SEAC is a tool that a lot of microfinance organizations want, and we would love to find a way to share it with them. However, marketing a piece of software that's this complex is a whole different animal for us and not really what we're geared up to do. even though we would love to share it, because we think that within our mission, it would help other organizations help other people that need loans. So there's that. Our agricultural loan program, of course, has always been important to us, and we're looking for ways to strengthen that through agricultural specific education. We want to incorporate into our education platform called AVA. And that's because, of course, agriculture, as most of Latin America, is the #1 driver of the economy, and it certainly is in Honduras. So to be able to provide better practices in agriculture, and also do things like provide pricing ranges for some of the common agricultural products, and expectations of pricing ranges, and where customers could be found for small subsistence farmers for their crops. All this is extremely important to them and would lead to a better standard of living. They'd be able to get better crop yields and also better prices for their crops, essentially. So that our products, which are our home improvement loan and our sanitation loan, are going quite well. The sanitation loan has been very well received, and we sort of learned about that from who's our partner, Jodi, in the sanitation loan?
Water for People.
Water for People. Water for People has done a lot of studies and about the impact of sanitation, of private bathrooms, about having a water reservoir in your home that you can have in case you need it and stuff like that, and has made a very important case for improving standard of living and how that's critical. Do you want to add anything, Jodi?
Yeah, I would say that we also work with Water for People to help with biodigesters, which is great also for the environment. The only thing I would add is that, you know, because a lot of these women work out of their homes, to be able and a lot of them also work, you know, having sanitary conditions is, you know, in direct correlation with their ability to be successful with their respective enterprises. So, you know, whether it's food related and directly appropriate, or if it's like their health, you know, being in good health directly contributes to their ability to sustain the work that they're doing. But I don't know if Tony went over this, but we, you know, there's still 90% of our portfolio that gets designated towards individual and group loans. So almost the majority, you know, the majority of the loans that we give out are for working capital to start and grow enterprises. But we have seen, you know, usually the women who participate in the home improvement or water and sanitation loans are women who have kind of received an initial loan or 2 or 3, and then they're hoping to improve some additional components of the business or home.
I would imagine that the business model for the sanitation and home improvement loans is that they do have a business and they're expecting to be able to pay back those loans from the proceeds from their business.
And may I comment?
Yes.
One of the things that Jodi and WISE have been working on with all of our partners over the years is that sustainability indicator, because it's important, a principle of the WISE project, that we were able to draw data, hopefully to prove that these aren't just startup loans, but they actually enable the creation of a business that goes far beyond the payoff of the loan. But the trouble has always been, not just with Adelante, but with all of our projects, the funding available, the resources available to follow beyond a 1-year period, which is the initial WISE follow-up period, to know whether a second and a third year, and in Adelante's particular situation, once the loan is paid off, there is no follow-up. So it's just, there just weren't the resources to do it. So this is just another call to action for inquiry about implementation of way to go into year 2 and to go into year 3 and say, look, you paid off the loan, but the business got on its feet and it continues. And I just make that call each time and say it here again. Right, Jodi?
Yes, thank you, Judith.
That conversation.
It's great to see your face. It's nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Can I add on to that too? So the question that you raised, do you actually have a goal for sustainability for the whole organization without having to rely upon new funding coming in? Or is your goal to always continue to expand? So in that sense, you never would really, reach sustainability if you're always using new money to grow bigger.
Tony, you want to take that one, or do you want me to?
Sure. This is a question that that comes up at every one of our board meetings. What really should we be doing, and what is the best outcome that we're shooting for in terms of creating change in the people that need it? Obviously, having some width is breadth of scope, and trying to help as many families as possible is, of course, part of the goal, and doing it with some depth and trying to actually make permanent change in those families is important as well. I would say that our challenge, of course, there's always a challenge of money for expansion, but it's not the only challenge with expansion. As was mentioned briefly, finding and training staff has always been a challenging. The education levels in Honduras are, there'll be a helicopter flying by. The education levels in Honduras are high school level is usually what we have for credit officers, and we sometimes have a hard time filling those positions. And so strengthening our onboarding and strengthening our staff training has been a big push for us. And that's what we're counting on. In terms of the sustainability of our borrowers and creating permanent change, we have, on the one hand, a great concern of this over lending and creating additional debt burden on families that does not yield an income result towards providing a better standard of living. And we see this all over Latin America, where microfinance organizations compete with each other and will give loans to people that in levels that are probably too high for them to be able to reasonably pay back, which creates a debt burden for them. So we try and still focus on a stair-step approach to building a business, because it's the most logical one and the one that we see has worked. A business normally doesn't just take off overnight, even if you have all the money in the world to make it happen. And in the same way, we can't immediately just grow our numbers overnight either. It has to happen organically, and all the other pieces have to be in place in order to make that happen.
And I would just add that, because our credit officers are trained to check in so regularly with the women, there is a very regular mentorship that just inherently happens. And it's not just the relationship between the credit officer and the borrower, but it's also that they act as a connector, so that the borrowers are also connecting with other women, whether it's a town over, who might have a similar business or be a few steps ahead, or but I mean, with a 97% average repayment rate, the organization itself is sustainable. It's just one of those circumstances, like when we're expanding into Roatan, for example, there is no other microfinance organization there. So there are advantages to that. We can require education modules where it's more difficult to require the education and training in other communities where there might be competition with other microfinance organizations. So the idea to expand is also to make sure that we're providing the relevant population who, wants and needs microfinance, but may not necessarily have access to those financial services as readily as some of the communities in which we might already be working in.
I have a comment and a question. The comment has to do with your IT group. I visited you guys in 2019 in February, I think. It was the last time we've been able to get down there. And we were treated with the opportunity to see your IT team and Alejandra and the educational program that they had developed in-house utilizing Zoom. It was the first time any of us had heard of Zoom, which is pretty funny now looking back on the importance of that to us in these days. But it was fantastic. We saw it both in your central office and we saw it in the field, where we witnessed a solidarity group come together and participate in a training program and a loan payback opportunity. So I just want to say you guys have a fantastic IT group and support for your educational system. So I completely believe that your new venture, the SEAC, translating the educational program to a mobile device is probably amazing. My question is this longstanding belief that the solidarity model, which creates a cohesive group of people, borrowers, who become responsible for one another. And we've always learned and been read that that's really important. But going to the system that you're going to now, which is more individualistic with the training provided not in a group setting, what do you think the trade-offs are? Are there benefits to the group model that you lose when you go to the model you're going to, or is it really all a good thing?
I am greatly concerned with losing the positive elements of having a circle of women that gets together on a regular basis and is able to talk amongst themselves about what they're doing. And we try and maintain some aspects of that in the way in which we still reach out to our borrowers, but some of that is very difficult to do if they're not actually physically getting together. And the truth is that we kept this trend has been happening for a while now, before 2019 for sure, and before the pandemic, definitely. And we were trying to keep the solidarity group model together because of that aspect, because we thought it was so important, and still do think it's so important to have people get together face to face. Times change, and the tide is heading and trending in a direction that it's trending, and it was very difficult for us to not accept what our borrowers were telling us, that they wanted more flexible individual style loans, that yes, they like to get together with their group members, but they also felt that it was a burden of time, and that they basically just wanted to have a more modern style loan that they could do with as they please. So this wasn't driven by us internally. This was driven by our borrower population and the market, essentially. So yes, we're still very concerned about it and still want to find ways in which borrowers can talk to each other offline and talk about what's going on with their businesses. And we still try and do that and create some forums for that to happen. But I would say the question is still very relevant and is still out in the forefront of what we and many other microfinance organizations are doing with their methodology these days. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, thanks.
I would just like to add that I think that although we may not do as many group loans, they still do in fact happen. But I think another thing important to add is that the group model is not necessarily relevant in certain communities where women don't necessarily feel a sense of responsibility with one another. So maybe in a smaller, more rural community context, it's appropriate, but then you're talking about higher population density or situations where women don't necessarily have positive relationships with one another. And then that kind of model no longer is even appropriate. So just wanted to add that.
So does that mean that some of the newer women coming in don't come in through a group any longer? They are offered just individual loans even for their first loan?
Yes.
Okay.
It's we try and form a group where we find it to be appropriate, as Jodi mentioned, in more rural settings. This becomes more organic to be able to do a group model. And then in larger communities that are more disparate, in a sense, they just demand an individual style loan. And so as opposed to going to the Colombians, we rather that they take a loan from us.
But it sounds like you're getting the repayment rate still. I mean, if you have really a 97% repayment rate, I mean, I think part of the idea of that group model too was that, you know, it was to help that repayment rate also, but it sounds like you're maintaining that.
Yeah, the loans that we have placed, there was a lot of loss through the pandemic. I mean, I will say that. And I think we're definitely not alone. Many almost all microfinance organizations, as you probably well know, took a big hit. And so did we. And we're happy that we've been able to recover with our methodology to the point where all of our new loans since then are actually quite healthy and doing quite well.
Very happy to hear that.
Yeah, we are too.
You are too.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's just an example of how, you as an organization are listening to the community, and your program's adaptations are driven by what the community is saying they want, what the women there are saying they want and need, which is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd like to just add a little bit to the educational theme or topic that, even though we've created this beautiful platform called AVA, and it has some great education modules, online education like this or remote learning is not this panacea. It requires a lot of promoting. You have to really sell it to people to get them on board. We have a training program to try. Our credit officers are very involved actively in getting our borrowers to get on the platform. And so we deal with things like, well, do you have a smartphone? Do you have, are you able to connect to Wi-Fi, or are you able to connect online somehow? Can you read and write? If you can't do it, maybe your son and daughter can help you. And that's always a win as well, if a family member is participating in the educational modules along with their parent, right? So we have loans for smartphones and do things like this. So getting people on the platform and getting them to believe that it's important is always a constant challenge.
Yeah. What % would you say of the participants are using the AVA platform?
I would say around, what do you think? Do you know, Jodi?
I don't know. I know that we piloted it with the staff in terms of staff training. And I think it's only been rolled out in certain communities so far. So, again, our education is not mandatory, but the way that credit officers, deliver it is like, based on where you're at with your business, we recommend this and this. But since we haven't gotten all of our training modules onto the platform, there's only a certain volume that are currently available. So it's really hard to answer that question at this stage, but I would hope that we would have more data to share with you within the year.
Yeah, it's not super high. I'm thinking it's close to 30%, but I don't think it's above that yet. And we're still building more content. And as I mentioned, the promoting part is important. The content creation for this can be quite painstaking. Internally, we do have a department, that's the education department, that does this. But we also recognize that we're not the only microcredit organization that does education. And so we have been able to find other partners that have some educational content that we're working with. The one was called Edufin, and Edufin works with Red Micro in the region. And they have some really interesting modules that are appropriate for our borrowers. So we're entering a partnership with them where we're going to tailor some of the modules to be more Adelante and Honduras specific. And so we're excited about that, and excited to see how much we can grow this. Keep in mind that our AVA is not only for our borrowers. Anyone in Honduras can join the platform and learn from these. Any small business owner can learn from these business development modules. So we feel that it's in line with our mission to share that. And so we do.
The EduFin, does that have anything to do with the Mujeres para Mujeres organization, or is that different?
It may be related to them. They may be using it as well. EduFin is the actual educational product offshoot, which may have been developed originally by them, and now is being promoted and shared and sold by Red Micro.
I have another question about technology. Is your technology enabled for payments to be made automatically, or do the women still have to go to the bank and make their loan payments?
Well, we have, they can go to a payment kiosk, which there are payment kiosks in different pulperias in towns, and so they can go and do a payment at a payment kiosk.
Okay.
Yeah, so that becomes, we haven't gone to digital currency, full digital currency here yet.
But the kiosk is a cashless transaction.
No, it's a cash transaction. Yeah, it just helps them. It can also, I think there is a cashless option as well. Yeah, for it's called in this case, there's two options actually for that. And you have to have a bank account and it gets credited to your account, but you can withdraw cash there, or you can go take your cash in and have it deposited. So there's still really no cashless transactions at the customer level yet. So you end up, our businesses end up with cash pretty much.
Okay.
But hopefully soon. I know the Philippines has done a lot in that respect.
Say again, who has?
The Philippines has done a lot in that respect. They've really electronic transfers and digital cash has come a long way.
Great. Well, I think we will wrap up there. We're about at time. Tony and Jodi, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all that you were doing. This was very informative, and I really appreciate all the Q&A. So thank you to everybody who asked a question as well. Those were great questions, great comments. I really appreciate this session. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you so much for inviting us.
And don't forget, if you want to come to Honduras, I'm here. So
Yes.
is Tony.
Jodi, I was going to give a plug for that too. So for anybody who's watching this recording, we have mentioned, Jodi and Tony have mentioned that there are opportunities to visit, and we are considering a site visit to Honduras next year. So if anyone is interested, please reach out, contact us. You can contact me directly, and we can discuss the opportunities. Please visit our website, womenempowerment.org, for more information about Adelante and all of our partners and the work that we do. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.